Hi, I'm Cindy from BDancewear.com, and in this video I was inspired by the girls over at ProMotionDance.com. There's Brittany and Jessica. They're both NFL and NBA cheerleaders for years, and what they're doing now is they're creating tutorials and help. If you want to be a professional dancer, they're going to show you how. They're going to give you the tips and the tricks of people in the trade, your little niche in getting in. Everybody nowadays is competing for these big spots, but you need that edge and that special edge. And the girls over at ProMotionDance.com, they're going to tell you how to do it. They're going to give you creative ways on getting yourself a little further ahead than the other girls, so that people notice you and recognize you without being obnoxious or outrageous. They've been in the profession, they've tried out, and they know when you're going too far, like what you can do that people like and what not to do. So I would definitely go over, check out their website. But when I was checking it out and watching the girls and listening to some of the stuff they had to say, I was really inspired by a picture they had there. Just to create something new, something simple and easy. One of the things they talk about is you want to stand out. So if you take that basic piece that you found on the shelf and you just pep it up a little, you're going to have something that not every girl has. When you walk into an audition, you don't want to see somebody else wearing the same outfit, because they're going to remember you by how you looked, how your hair's done, everything, something that stands out. So this inspired me. I saw a top that they had and I kind of copycatted it. We used one of our sports bras and we put a piping on it and then a little tube here. Simple, basic stuff. You're not altering the pattern. You're just adding a little embellishment to it. But something like this will really bring their attention to you and draw it up to your face. So if you want a little extra edge when you're trying out to be a professional cheerleader or a dancer, this might be the top for you. So you're going to need some needles, some scissors. I'm using a white shiny holographic fabric. And I've picked up a sports bra from our shop, and I'm going to show you how to put a stripe on it, and then we're going to pinch it and rhinestone the center. So in order to do this, you're going to want to cut two different widths of fabric. First one is going to be approximately 1 inch, and you're just going to go ahead and cut that. And that is going to actually go around this edge. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this side, the side that you want to see, and face it towards the fabric. I'm going to stop the stripe right here. You could go further back if you want. So I'm going to fold this back, and I'm going to put this right where I want to pin it. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it there. Now, if there's some elastic here, you want to be careful. You don't want this to bunch up and look funny. You want to make sure that it's flat. So then we're going to take this, and I'm just going to flatten this out. Now, this fabric stretches, so we're okay. You don't want it too tight or not too loose. And then you're just going to go ahead and pin that along this whole piece here. And just keep pinning that until you get to the other side. And then when you get to the other side, you'll do this same type of thing. You'll fold it over and put a fold in that. So what we're going to do is sew down here about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to go right on the other side of this elastic, so that then we're going to turn this around and sew on the top, creating a stripe around it. So I'm going to set this to the side, because the next thing we want to cut before we go to sewing is I want to open this up. I want to create a wide piece that'll go around the sports bra to gather up so it's easy to rhinestone. So I'm going to go with approximately 2 inches, and I'm going to cut more than enough to go around the sports bra without it gathered. It'll just make it easier, because what we're going to want to do is across this center piece here, we're going to want to put that on there and pinch it down. We'll sew this into a tube first, but you want to make sure there's more than enough to go around and give you a little extra that you can cut off. So those are the two pieces we need for cutting on this. Okay, so I have taken the top where I've already pinned this stripe, and remember that you have the side of the fabric you want to see, the face of the fabric touching each other. And so we're gonna go ahead and place it in here. I'm gonna do a straight stitch. We'll go back and do a zigzag, but for right now, and I believe that I'm gonna measure up, make sure it's the right distance that I want. It's a little more than about 3/4 of an inch where I'm gonna go. So I'm actually gonna use the guide on my machine and my presser foot to know exactly where I'm at. So let's go ahead and sew this seam. We're just going to go straight. Now remember, some machines you have to pull the needles out as you go. I don't have to, but it's a good idea to do. And then I'm making sure that this isn't gathered underneath, that the fabric is nice and flat when I barely tug on it, to make sure that we're catching the bottom and the top. And then you're just going to keep going like that. See right here how we've sewn that even, and there's elastic in this, so I make sure it stays on that same part of that, because we're going to roll this around like that. We're going to pin it, and then we're just going to zigzag over the top of this. One thing that can cause problems, if this isn't pinned snug and you don't check all the way around, like you let a piece come up a little, it's going to change that stripe on there. You want to also make sure that when you do it, and I choose a zigzag, because then that way you can catch the fabric, so you don't end up with this or too far down. If you pull too tight and uneven, then you'll end up with a skinny stripe. So you want to make sure that it's even pressure all the way around. And it's really that simple to sew this stripe on. So you can see now I folded it over and zigzagged it. And when you rhinestone that, you won't even notice that. Especially when you go to rhinestone this edge here, and you really won't notice how it goes from blue to white. You can actually even continue that if you want, but then you end up in the same situation here where all of a sudden it abruptly stops. So make sure you think about where you want that to stop. Now I've taken the top and I folded it in half like this, making sure all the seams match up, and then I put a needle at the top and the bottom through, just like that, so you can see. So that when I open it up, I can sew down the center of that straight down to gather up. So let's go ahead and put this in here first. I'm going to double check that real quick, because you never know. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top with a zigzag, and I'm going to back up a little. Now remember, this zigzag is going to be covered up. So I'm going to take my fingers, spread them apart a little like this, and then just gather them up, making sure everything looks kind of even. And then do the same thing down here. By using your fingers to pinch it up a little, you can kind of guide the fabric and then zigzag it back. Let's cut this out. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over it one more time. Just make sure it's nice and strong. You can put elastic behind the back. That actually helps a lot. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll clean up the threads later on. But basically, we've zigzagged down and pinched the front. Now what we're going to want to do is sew this tube so it's going to cover right over it. So let's go ahead and sew it inside out. We'll do a straight stitch on it. You want to decide how wide you want this to be. So let's go straight stitch. This isn't really going to need to stretch, so just remember that. And if on something like this you go to the end and I'm going to go through and cut the edge, and then trim the whole thing down. And the reason I sewed off the end, there's a couple different techniques you can do to turn things around. And one of them is, if that's sewn off, I can put my finger in there. You might not want to use scissors. I just am so used to it. A pencil is really good with the rubber end. And so then, like that, it's turned around really fast. And I'm going to cut that off because I want to make sure instead of being sewed like that, we can open it up like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go inside out. A lot of threads in here that are unnecessary. I am going to, if I sew it so I can see that seam like that, then you'll see the seam in the front. So I want to make sure and turn it this way. I'm going to zigzag that on, or do a straight stitch and then a zigzag. Okay, so now it's right over the front like that, and then coming down here. And I don't want to see the stitching across the top. I want it to appear as if it's a loop going all the way around. So now I'm going to make sure that this seam is lined up, get it where I want it here, because you want to make sure if you go too short, it's going to pull it up funny. You want to make sure it's long enough that it can lay flat. Bend it back, kind of look, make sure that it's down the center, that it's not crooked. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to end up sewing right in there. So let's get a pin in there to hold it in place. Like that. So you'll see it's pinned back there, but the loop's loose. So now I can go, and you'll want to use your finger to make sure this sews down even, and zigzag back and forth, or stitch back and forth, and do a straight stitch and then a zigzag. You want to be careful this does not go past, like out here, because you don't want to see that. And then what I will do is go in and hand stitch from the back this down into place so this doesn't move back and forth. It'll just be hand stitched, only catching the back of this tube, so everything will lay nice and flat. Let's get that needle out of there. And then trim everything up, clean it up, and rhinestone it.
Thank you for watching our video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure and click here to subscribe, because we're going to have some amazing DIY videos coming out. And if you want to get our free, complete dance costume DIY guide, click right here, or go to bdancewear.com/DIY guide. And lastly, if you have any questions or ideas for future videos, please leave it in the comments below. Thanks again for watching our video, and remember, be original, be colorful, be dancewear.com.